Welcome everyone to the Women Automotive Network interview series. Today we have with us Shanel Drewe, British racing driver. Welcome, Shanel.
Hello, nice to see you.
You too. So Shanel, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are and what you do?
So I'm Shanel Drewe. I'm a British racing driver, as Stephanie's just said, and I've been racing since the age of 14 years old, but I've been involved in motorsport since 13. So my career was very unexpected. It started at school, and I can remember ever since I was really young, from 2 years old, I didn't have Barbie dolls or Girls World. I had little toy cars and a toy car mat, and that was what I played with as a child. And my first words were BMW, Audi, Mercedes instead of mum and dad. So that was where the passion kick-started. And when I was at school, one of my books was plastered with pictures of Lamborghinis and race cars. And my teacher noticed this passion. And he said to me, "I've noticed you're obsessed with cars, and I thought I've had to do something about this for a while." His brother was racing at the time in a little club championship, and he offered me to go along and help from mechanical fixtures to washing wheels and helping with the team with the pit boards, etc., etc. And from there, I started networking with other racing teams. At 13 years old, I managed to work with 3 or 4 teams, helping out until my 14th birthday. I got the opportunity to jump into the car myself, which was just for a bit of fun, lifelong dream to drive a car. And the local circuit said it's absolutely fine so long as I have one of their instructors with me. And from here, this is where it started to take a bit of a crazy turn. And I ended up beating the lap time of a very experienced track driver in an M3 when I was in an MX5, which was a far superior car than mine. And this is where my instructor turned around and said, "We have to do something. We have to follow this onwards." And we got pointed in the direction of the Junior Saloon Car Championship. And now my father and I, we came from a completely normal background. We don't come from a wealthy background. And motorsport, you're up against the millionaires. And I can remember sat on the driveway with this car for the first time. My father sold his own road car so that we could buy this race car. And we sat there looking at it for a good couple of hours on the driveway thinking, what have we done? How are we going to get through this? And from there, we managed, having only expected to do 1 or 2 races, we managed to do 8 races that year. And we've been moving up the ranks ever since. My second season, I was in an adult championship, despite being 15 and 16 years old at the time. And I came out as vice champion, beating the adults who had been on track almost every day. And I turned up at the track and did my thing and won. And I'm really excited this year to be competing in a higher level.
That's amazing. So like you said, you didn't come from a racing background, no drivers in the family. It was just something within you.
Yeah, I think it was just a passion of mine. My father was into motorsport, but only through the telly, only through watching the touring cars and the Formula One. And I think I must have had it drilled into me from when I was in my mum's tummy, watching the telly. It was just a passion, and I think it was definitely just taking every opportunity that came my way that pushed me into the driving seat and got me into my absolute dream job that not many people would expect to be able to achieve in their lifetime.
Exactly. So you started 13, 14, and how old are you now?
I'm 20 years old now, so it feels like yesterday when I first started. It is crazy how the time has flown. But yeah, I'm still quite young in motorsport terms because it's definitely a young sport. And most karting people start from the age of 3 or 4. Because I can remember turning up to my first ever race and my teammate had been racing for years and years prior to myself turning up at the track. It was my first race and they had 6 years on me already. So it was quite daunting turning up to the first race and being up against some of the very experienced kids. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I really liked just throwing myself into that situation and taking it as it come.
Well, it's obviously in your blood to beat all the adults in the first track, or should I say the first opportunity to get behind the wheel. Which leads me on, you know, you have only been in the industry a few years, but what are the challenges that you've faced already? Perhaps you can share with us?
Yeah, it certainly hasn't been an easy road. You've got the obvious female in a male-dominated world. And it has proved very challenging over the time. I remember when I started out doing the mechanicing with some of the race teams, it was just the odd comment there. I can remember a gentleman saying to me, "Shouldn't you be on top of the bonnet instead of under it?" And it grew as time went on in my career. The comments I could laugh off and you just you take it as it comes with the comments. But I remember when I first started Michelin Clios in 2017, I had a teammate who was a male. He was in his 30s. He'd been racing for quite a long time. And then to have a 15-year-old girl jump in the car and start beating you, I think he took that to heart a little bit and didn't quite know how to respond. So it became very difficult fighting with the teammate on and off the track, and just trying to get through the season and not let the psych get into your head, because there's a lot of psychology that goes into the racing, and people can say a lot of things that can really get to you as a woman, but you just got to push through that. But I'd definitely say the most difficult part of my career was when I started my instructing business, and I was 18 years old, and I remember turning up to Bobbington, which is a track down in Dorset, and my first day I was actually sexually abused in the car, and it actually went as far as me reporting it to the police and going through the police way of dealing with things. It was a very difficult day, I think, to turn up, and I was having a million questions in my head. Is this what every day is going to be like? Wow. Is this normal? But it was very rare, I think. I think I was very unlucky that day to jump in the car. It's mainly comments, and it's mainly people saying that they don't want to be in the car with a young female because they feel they want one of the big boy races. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult day of work, but I've definitely used that in my time to spend every single day I can trying to change the perspective of a male looking at a young female in motorsport, because I understand in a way it's not common. So they must have a bit of a shock when I probably look the same age as their daughter when they're jumping in the car. But I definitely use it as my fuel to push forward.
Which I guess brings us on to an amazing question. What is your advice for any woman looking to enter the automotive industry as such a young racing driver yourself?
My advice would be to take every opportunity you can. I never expected to be anywhere in the racing paddock, and it was just purely through working very hard, showing my passion for cars, speaking out about how much I love cars despite the things the guys would say at school, or despite the judgment from other women at school saying, oh, why don't you come and play horses in primary school? When I was like, no, I want to go and play cars with the boys. And it was just being you and being true to yourself. And it's okay, you can still be feminine, even if you are in a male-dominated world. Because there are times where I jump out the car and these guys just take their helmets off and they're all fine. And I'm there thinking, oh my goodness, my hair. Oh, there's cameras. Oh my goodness. It's just about being true to yourself and remembering that you can still be a woman, but you can still do the male things.
Amazing, thank you. This year, International Women's Day 2021 had a fantastic initiative, Choose to Challenge. Can you share what your Choose to Challenge was, Shanel?
My Choose to Challenge was to speak out about my experiences, to speak about the sexual abuse I faced on my first day of work and the discrimination I've faced throughout my career. It's something I've never opened up about before, and I thought the start of this year, what a great day to tell my story and to raise awareness for what it actually is like in the industry. So I decided to organise an event, spoke to hundreds of people about what women face in motorsport, and it was very eye-opening. Some of the statistics are actually pretty shocking. Some of them I hadn't looked up before International Women's Day. And one statistic that stood out to me was women are over 40% more likely to die in a car crash than men, because the safety features are all built for men. Wow. And this was just shocking for me, thinking I'm jumping in this race car. If I have a crash, it could possibly be more fatal for me than anyone else, purely because I have hair and I have a different body structure, but my brain works the same. I can still function a car. And it is absolutely shocking, because I remember looking at another statistic. Between 1960 and 1990, there have been 5 females in Formula One, and that is really nothing compared to 822 men in that same time. So it is very shocking, and there needs to be a change somewhere. And I think we need to move women through the ranks of motorsport now in order to create those role models for the younger people coming through the sport, and to make it equal in a way.
Which brings us on to the next question. Really, in your career, shall we say, is there a particular inspirational woman that you would like to, celebrate, shall we say, today?
I think the problem with me moving through motorsport was there wasn't a role model for me to look up to. There wasn't a female in the sport that really stood out. There's one female, Sabine Schmitz, who recently passed away, and I looked up to her in a way of how determined she was, and she never cared about what anyone else thought of her. She just got on with it, and she had her own unique personality, which I thought was amazing, because she wasn't judged as a woman. She was just judged as such a great inspirational character who would scare the living daylights out of anyone that was in the car. But that was only quite recently that I began to take an interest in Sabine and look into her work. But apart from that, when I was growing up, I can't really remember having anyone to look up to. But
which I guess is what you're saying, the problem in the industry, you know, 5 out of 800 F1 drivers only being female.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely lacking. And that was what drives me to be that role model for the younger people coming up, because it is important to be able to look at someone to make yourself believe you can do that. You can be that person. It's not even better.
Well, thank you, Shanel, and hopefully we'll hear more from you in June at the Women Automotive Summit, and you will be that passion and that drive for women in the motorsport industry. We would like to finish the interview with a single word. In one word, describe the opportunity for women in the automotive right now.
Racing. Racing is that word. There are so many opportunities opening up in the racing world for women to stand out and for women to just shout that we need this spot in motorsport. There's the W Series that started up, which is your help through the single-seater levels. But there's something there in tin-top cars, so cars with roofs and the touring cars. There needs to be more females going through that route. And I think in the next couple of years, it will be great to see people moving into the racing industry.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Shanel. Really appreciate your time today, sharing, I think, your personal story with us. The Women Automotive Network really appreciates it, and we look forward to welcoming you in June. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to speaking to you all.